There's so many vendors that are complementary. And at the end of the day, it's for the partners to choose.
Grow my business, reduce risk, and gain efficiencies.
Hey everybody, welcome to Technically Unraveled. I am Kristen Fehrenbach, the Senior Director of Microsoft Go-to-Market here at Pax8. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm super excited to continue to talk about Copilot because it is continuing to change. There's so much going on, so we've got a Microsoft expert headed your way soon. But I want to make sure that you like, share, subscribe because we've got a ton of stuff coming your way, all lined up, ready to go. Let's hop into some updates because there's always a lot going on in Microsoft. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. We're going to get this one out of the way first and foremost, everybody. Teams unbundling. We've gotten a lot of questions about this, and I know it came out on April Fool's Day. They got us all. So enterprise SKUs, E3 and E5 going forward. If you don't already have this in your tenant, you're going to have to buy the unbundled version. So what does that mean? It just means that they've separated out Teams. So you'll still have the Office suite, all of those great things. Teams is just that add-on. But if it's already in your environment, you keep on keeping on the same way you always have. You can add new licenses, you can subtract them, all of that. Now, you might be asking, hey, how does this actually affect SMB? So your business premium, for instance, things like that. There is the option of the unbundling, but the same restrictions aren't going through to SMB. So while you can have that option at your renewal, if you're saying like, hey, you know what, maybe this person isn't using Teams or whatever that feels like, you can actually go in and say, okay, well, we just want this without, but there's not going to be any force. So if you're adding anything new to a new tenant, you will always have that option of with or without. But if you have questions, reach out to your account team. They're ready to talk to you. All right, something else that was pretty cool. We've got a new Microsoft benefits package. Now, there are 3 different tiers. They start at $395. They go all the way up to almost $4,000, right? You get a slew of benefits. I'm talking business premium. You've got Azure credits. We've got dynamic seats, a ton of stuff to help you as partners jumpstart your business. You can add these on to designations. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with these that we're really excited about for SMB in particular. So take a look at those. We've got a couple links down in the bottom that you can actually click through. There's a really, really good blog about this actually linked below. So make sure you check that one out. Definitely a good one. All right. There's a lot of promotions. There's a lot of offers, everybody. Where can you go to check it all out in one place? Awesome. Really excited about this one. There's a global promo readiness guide. Now, this one in particular, you're going to actually get to see like, hey, what upcoming promotions, what offers, eligibility, all of that good stuff. One centralized place. I think we are all excited about that one. Now, somewhere else that we actually do some consolidating is the Pax8 monthly newsletter. This actually went out on Monday. Same link every time. I told you guys to bookmark it. I have faith that you did, but go to that bookmark, hit refresh. It's the same link every time. But this is where us as Pax8, we consolidate not only these promos, these offers, things like that, but what else do you need to know as a partner of Pax8 according to your Microsoft business? So Ashley Moretti, our programs team, they work really hard on this every single month. It's actually our #1 read newsletter. So if you've not checked it out, please make sure you do. Last but not least, a retirement guide from Microsoft. This was actually recently updated. I think it was the 4th of April. And this really just goes through, hey, you know what kind of things are happening in CSP? Most of it's going to be legacy. So if you're already out of legacy, not really as big of a concern, but this is going to be updated once again, the 1st of May. But it's always good to know, hey, let me just check out just in case you are on legacy, what's going away, what do you need to be aware of? All right, we ran through those real quick, but I am excited to jump on in. So Tamim, thank you so much for taking the time again to jump on today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me again, Kristen. How are you?
I am doing good. I was like, you know what? We got to talk more about Copilot because I think that's the world we live in. And I think you're the right person So tell us who you are. What do you do at Microsoft?
Yeah, so thank you again for having me. I think last time I was here, I talked a little bit about what was Bing Chat Enterprise. That was before we even went general availability for Copilot on CSP. And so I'm a senior product marketing manager within our modern work business group, and I look after our Copilot go to market strategy for our CSP channel. And so I am your guy for Copilot.
I love it. I love it. So it's awesome that you continue to take time to invest in obviously enabling the channel with Copilot, all of those things, because the first thing I really wanted to just kind of dive right in is I know that Microsoft has 4 steps for success. And if you'll just kind of take us away, and I'll jump in here and there, but I think it's some really, really important information.
Yeah. So we have been on this journey for quite some time. We started talking to partners and customers even before we went general availability in CSP. And even us as customer zero, we've had Copilot since like October, some of us even earlier of last year. And so we've come up with a simple 4-step process to try to go from absolutely no Copilot to getting your M365 tenant ready for Copilot all the way through deploying it organization wide. And it starts with, first of all, you got to start early. That's a given. And many of these companies and organizations have started to create these AI councils where we have leaders across the company who have stake in generative AI, and they want to make sure that the organization is successful when you deploy it. So securing LT sponsorship, finding the right people who are advocates for generative AI within a company is a first critical step. And then those same folks will likely be the success owners because they want the company to be successful and kind of evolve with generative AI as well. But one important thing that we tend to always overlook is defining what success actually looks like. So identifying the right KPIs, setting the appropriate expectations, all that stuff needs to happen before we even start talking about Copilot. And we have a ton of really good materials through our CSP briefings that I'm sure a lot of your partners are very familiar with. It's out there on our partner portal. You can download it, and it helps you walk through each of these steps before actually getting your hands on Copilot. So I would say that's the first important step. Secondly,
Awesome.
we started and look, Copilot is a brand new product. It's no longer a weekend cutover server migration. You come back on work on Monday and things are as if nothing's changed. It will take behavior change. It will take humans to go through a process, and it's very normal for customers to start with a small pilot. And I say small, but not too small. We want at least 5 to 10 users in any given organization because you need some sort of critical mass in order to find value, in order to share best practices amongst each other. And 5 or more is probably the right amount of partner or customers to start with. But depending on the size of the company, that will go up and down. So if we're talking about a 300-person organization, 5 users is probably not enough to find that value right off the break. We also suggest starting with a single department. So the ones that we've seen the most, or at least the quickest realization to value, are sales, marketing, HR, legal, finance, roles where people are in and out of Teams meetings, living in Outlook, they're in M365 apps, creating content, analyzing data, all that good stuff. Those are roles that are going to find the quickest value to Copilot. So our suggestion is starting with one of those with one of those departments, and at least 5 users. Now, this number 2 right here pops up all the time, and that's ensuring that data is secure, things are labeled appropriately. Last thing we want is for someone to expose someone else's pay stub when you prompt Copilot with the wrong thing. And so we have a lot of resources to help get there. There's a get AI ready checklist that kind of walks through the steps that a partner should take with their customer to give them that peace of mind. And we actually recently introduced a new feature that's in preview today, and it's going to be coming out general availability soon. It's restricted SharePoint search. Um, so RSS or restricted SharePoint search is actually an ability within Copilot to whitelist up to 100 SharePoint sites. And this is intended to be a band-aid for the time being. Regardless of generative AI or Copilot, keeping a data in order for an organization is going to be important. That if somebody dug around in SharePoint long enough with or without Copilot, and you don't have the right permissions in place, you'll find the things they're not supposed to find. Copilot just helps surface some of those things a little bit quicker and
Just
easier for
makes
your
it so
users.
much faster, right? Like I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna
Right.
type in like, hey, give me the payroll or this, give me this person's level. And I mean, you
Yeah,
don't want
you don't
that,
want
you
that
know?
to exactly. Nobody wants that personal information to get out there. And so restricted SharePoint search is one of those features that will help mitigate some of that. But again, it's a temporary fix. It's meant to be there as a stopgap until you clean up that data, until you appropriately label things and make sure that sharing permissions are in place and all that good stuff. So here's a little bit of details about restricted SharePoint search. Like I mentioned, it is in preview now, and it will be available, generally available soon, and it's at no additional cost. So if you already have Copilot for M365, it's just an additional feature that you can turn on in the Microsoft Admin Center.
And so
One step
Tamim,
I did
on
not,
this
yeah,
one,
go ahead.
real quick, I just want to make sure because when you say restricted SharePoint search, like is it basically just either the partner or the end customer basically saying like, hey, you know what, anything that's in this box here, I just don't want Copilot to be able to see it. Is that basically like the
It's the other way,
very
actually.
baseline of it?
Very close. It's the other way, actually. It's saying that
Okay,
these are the 100 SharePoint searches that Copilot can access. Everything else,
perfect.
Copilot cannot access. So the user's personal emails, Teams messages, files in OneDrive, chat information, all that stuff, Copilot will still access. It can still crawl across that and get your information, and you'll still see it in the M365 apps, and it'll still do all the great things that you're expecting from it. It just won't access those SharePoint sites that you said, no, don't go to. Basically. So again,
Excellent,
it's
excellent.
meant to
Okay,
be a temporary fix.
awesome.
Cool. Um, and then in that same step, it's critical for us to identify champions and validators and the right folks within the organization who will evangelize the product. With any new product, you're going to need people who can give you straight facts about what's working, what's not working. And those are going to be the people that we consider champions. Um, And so, with the excitement that's done in the pilot, we will take that excitement to drive the next step, which is expanding to a department. And identifying the right department. All this conversations need to happen early on. So the leaders at that organization need to decide, hey, we'll roll out the pilot to this group of users, but then when we do our first departmental rollout, here are the ones that we should target. And so it's important to have those conversations up front and prepare for it. Essentially, when you go to the department, expanding to a department phase, you're doing the pilot, but just at a much bigger scale. You're having to identify new champions. You're going to have to teach people on how to use things. You're going to have to create that joint deployment and adoption plan with the customer. So a lot of those steps that we see in the first and second step are kind of repeated here, but at a much larger scale. Um, Here is also where you can start introducing Copilot Studio and the role-based copilots like sales and services. Because obviously different users have different needs, and we want to make sure that there is a version of Copilot for everyone. But at the same time, you can deploy the free version of Copilot, the one with the commercial data protection for the rest of the company. This will kind of give those other users a head start in with generative AI. The reality is people are going to be using generative AI with or without permission. We're already seeing it. Might as well
Let's just
use something.
protect it.
Yes, exactly. Might as well use something that gives the organization some peace of mind. There's not using it to train the LLM. We don't have eyes on the prompts. No one at the IT admin level has eyes on the prompts or the responses. And so let's give users a safe and secure way to use AI, and give yourself some peace of mind as an organization as well. The last and final step is deploying to the organization wide. And this can be done in piece by piece. So we can take each department and go one by one, or we can deploy it across the board, depending on what the customer really wants to do. But again, we're going back to those initial steps of making sure that people feel comfortable, that data is secured, and that users are enabled. There's an adoption and change management plan. This is where partners play a critical role. This is again, it's no longer a cutover migration over a weekend. And so partners are critical in ensuring that readiness is there, that change management services are available, and that you're on the journey with the customer the entire time. If you leave them high and dry on an island, I promise you their experience with the Copilot will not be that good. You need to partnership to be there along that journey with the customer as well. So
I so
Easy,
agree with
couple of
that.
4 steps. I hope that it is simplified enough. There are obviously a bunch of sub steps within each of those big 4 steps, but we want to simplify as much as possible because again, it's a brand new product. It's a brand new way of working for all of us.
Oh, I couldn't agree
Um,
more. And plus, I mean, we've got 30 minutes. So it's like we've got to slide through these quick. So I think that
yes.
like we've really set a great foundation. Like I think these 4 steps, like first and foremost, I want to call out a lot of times we see the partners, a lot of times the end customers, they want to say, hey, you know what, we want to put this in IT.
Mhm,
And a lot of people aren't really seeing as much value in it as they
mhm.
would be if it was in sales or HR. So, I mean, it's super, super important to identify the right pilot group. And I can't make sure enough. And I want to make sure, to me, we've talked a little bit in the past about Viva, and I think it's playing a neat role into what Copilot is today. And I know there was some sort of announcement today. Can you kind of read us in a bit?
Yeah. So Copilot Dashboard was in public preview for quite some time. And a part of Copilot Dashboard, in order to get some of the more detailed insights, you would have to have a Viva license. So as of today, Copilot Dashboard is now made generally available. And then for a limited time, Copilot for M365 customers will be able to access the deeper insights in Copilot Dashboard without any additional cost. And so without having to pay for an additional Viva Insights license or anything like that. Users and IT admin, as well as leaders at a company, can see which departments are using which applications, which are who are our power users for Copilot. Where can we go and learn about what the best practices are? Because this group is doing really good at using it. This other team may be lacking behind, but it might be because they're not sure what's capable of. And so, cross pollinating best practices, ensuring that we get the employee sentiment to figure out like, yeah, this is working well. That is an awesome tool to realize ROI, especially for some of those leaders who are on the fence about generative AI or Copilot. So exciting news there. And of course, we have a blog that we just recently posted that from Jared Spataro this morning, and it kind of details out general availability and some of the details around not needing the Viva license for its time for a short period of time.
Man, that is really exciting because just to be able to see where is it being used, how is it being utilized, and then maybe partners even go back and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to re identify champions
Yeah.
because this person's doing great, right? So I think it's an interesting topic that kind of leads us to. So don't hate me on this one.
Uh-oh, here we
But
go.
we do hear, I know, we're going right for the questions today. But we've heard some people say that, hey, you know what, M365 Copilot, it's not for SMB. It's enterprise only. You let those big companies use it, and I don't know, we'll figure it out later in time. So I don't really think that's the case, but I wanted your opinion.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think it's the case. I, in fact, think that it may actually be more valuable for SMBs compared to enterprises. When you look at an SMB organization, a lot of those folks are wearing multiple hats. They only have so many hours in a day. And if I look at a C level at a SMB for a true SMB, they're the CEO, they're the finance person, they're the salesperson and marketing person. That's a lot for one person to undertake. Copilot can help you get there and really take off the burden of the tedious tasks on a daily basis. So I'd actually argue that Copilot might actually be more valuable for small and medium sized customers rather than those larger enterprise guys.
I love it. It's funny. I'm like, okay, so this is go to market, Kristen. This is Microsoft Programs, Kristen. We're ready to
Love it.
go. So,
Love it.
the multiple hats, it's so relevant because we, every single day, I mean, everybody's saying, hey, you know what? Okay, this is really it. But a lot of people actually want to like expand, learn, do other things. And being able to free up some of these, just like, I don't want to say mindless tasks, but the ones that are just repetitive, you know what I mean? Like
It's
that's
priceless.
huge.
It's priceless. It really is. I mean, even we recently put out a study, 11 by 11 tipping point, which basically our research shows that if you can save 11 minutes over on a daily basis over a course of 11 weeks, you will find value in Copilot. And there's some deep research behind this that shows that if a couple of those tasks that are repetitive can save that time for you, and it adds up at the end of the day. It might not seem like a lot, but it really does. If you do all the math and you take it for a course over a week or a course over 11 weeks, you're saving a ton of time. And that frees you up to do more impactful work.
100%. So I know that here at Pax 8, we've been trying to do a lot of work, specifically for SMB because breaking down, look, ROI can be a little bit tricky, right?
Mhm.
So we've put together a Copilot calculator that I know we're going to bring up here. And this is available through our landing page. If you scroll down, this, we're really just saying, hey, you know what? What's your average salary? How many sales support? You've got people leaders, you've got power users, you've got, executives, you've got people like that. And depending on that, what are your thoughts to me? Because for us, we see a lot of people going in and saying, hey, you know what? We are going to use just regular Copilot for some people right now, but then we're going to kind of mix and match other places.
Yeah. No, totally. And this kind of goes back to the phased rollout, because I see on here you have average salary employee or average employee for salary or salary wise, and then sales folks, leaders, power users. And you can almost categorize this in different departments. And using the four-step method along with this ROI calculator can give you a real good idea of, hey, here's how much I'm saving today. Here's how much I could be saving if you roll it out to the next department. And if you match this up with our with the Copilot dashboard, I can promise you there's going to be pretty quick realization of value, especially for those C levels and the folks who are on the fence about Copilot.
Awesome. So yeah, please make sure if you're a partner, if you haven't checked that out, it's on our Pax 8 Copilot landing page. Now, I think tips and tricks are so underrated right now with Copilot
Yeah.
because I want you to I'm going to kind of throw just some random things at you because follow a meeting, talk me through this kind of functionality and what this can do for people.
Yeah, I can probably guess that you've been in a situation where you've been double booked, maybe triple booked, quadruple booked for some
Once,
odd reason.
twice.
Yeah, once or twice maybe, right? Yeah, and all those meetings are important, right? You can't ignore one over the other. And so the follow a meeting option within Copilot, it's actually within Outlook, is an option for you to track along the meeting and see what's going on. It'll give you your action items and a recap of the meeting, all that fun stuff, without you actually having to attend the meeting. Now you can do this kind of today without the follow meeting button through Teams and in the recap section within Teams, but it does take an extra step or two for you to actually go out there and do that. Follow meeting feature will actually reduce some of those steps. And that way you can stay up to date on the work needed and the actions that are assigned to you without you having to join multiple meetings and spreading yourself thin. So I love it. It's one of the coolest features. I would say check out Outlook in the browser. It might pop up there first before in other places. I always like to tell people to try Copilot in the browser, like copilot.microsoft.com. See what kind of answers you get there. Obviously, some of the functionality won't be you won't be able to create a Word document from the browser version or anything like that. But I tend to find it to be the richest experience as far as Copilot goes.
People, what's going to happen when you say go to the Outlook on the web. We've got these diehard desktop people, but it's good to
Yep.
know that, like, hey, these pop up in the web first and then they end up translating down, right?
Yeah. Totally. And I mean, we have Copilot's moving so fast. We have new features and languages and things like that that are released very often. I think the best place for us to keep a track of what's coming out or what's in the pipeline is our public roadmap. So we have a public roadmap for all of our products, and we recently added a filter for Copilot for M365, and it shows you when to expect different features, like that Follow Me feature, or using Copilot in the older version of Outlook and not the new version of Outlook. So I know a couple of people who love the older version of Outlook and are married to it, and it's going to be hard to get them away from it. And they're asking, like, "Hey, when can I use Copilot in the older version of Outlook?" Check out the roadmap. We have some dates and we have some time frames and windows of when that you can expect some of that stuff.
Dom Kirby, who is the host on the game, is cringing right now because he wants me to use the web one and I just cannot do it in my heart. So I'm going to give it a shot, okay? Guys, I
I
really
have
want to
some
follow a
peers who
meeting.
I'm with you. I have some peers who will only use the web version of Outlook. I'm a desktop person, so I get it. I get
Oh,
where you're coming from, Kristen.
all right.
But check it out. You might be pleasantly surprised.
I like it. Now, we've talked a little bit about, okay, you can catch up on email threads. I think that's great. Recapping in Teams, awesome. You can stay engaged. Love all these things. I think they're awesome. But how do I get more value out of Copilot? Because it's still $360 a year. I
Yeah.
want over $360 a year in value.
Yeah, no, and then going back to that 11 by 11 tipping point, there's only so much time you can save by recapping meetings and recapping email thread and things like that. So I consider those like horizontal prompts. Those are things that are across every single functional role. No matter who you are, you're going to find value in a Teams meeting recap. You're going to find value in summarization of an email thread. But how do you move past that? How do you go from a horizontal value to actual role based and functional value? There's a couple of different things that I like to tell people about. Firstly, if you haven't seen it already, in Copilot, there is Copilot Lab, which is in the prompt box. You'll see a little, it looks like a little book icon. You click on that, and it gives you some ideas of prompts and things to go get going within that specific application. If you open it up even more, it takes you to a browser, and it opens up a page that gives you. They can filter out by different applications of different prompts and things to try. Now that's great and I love it and it's super helpful and useful to get going. But I found a ton of value in our scenario library. So we recently launched this. It is also on our adoption pages and we've kind of sprinkled it everywhere so people can find it. And we've created some scenarios based off of the different functions and roles and created some day in the life material as well. So if you're a marketer, you'll see what it may be to live with a co-pilot in the day in the life of a marketer. If you're in finance, you can see some of the different actions and prompts and steps that you could possibly live through. I have found those to be so valuable, and every single partner and customer I share it with is wowed, completely wowed. And so we want to, of course, build upon that. And again, for the CSP channel. Hey, we launched in January, and so we're still pretty early on, and we're learning through this process as well. And so as we figure out new ways to use Copilot and more comprehensive ways to get value out of it, we're going to keep those scenario libraries updated. Those the Copilot Lab will be updated. So I would strongly suggest if people have not seen already, take a look at the scenario libraries. There's a lot of rich content based on the roles and the functions that you all do. I personally have found a ton of value in it, so I hope you all do too.
100%. There's so much stuff in there, and I think it's awesome. So, I've learned a lot from you in general about Copilot, but I cannot let you leave without you telling us what is the most useful skill or something that you are currently utilizing that we've not already talked about.
Yeah, that's a great question. Here's something that we're working on right now. We want to make those scenario libraries more live and make them feel more real. And we're doing that through some materials that we're creating, some click-through demos, along with some workshop materials that partners can help teach and guide customers. I'm actually using Copilot to create some of those scenarios and actually test things to see what works and what doesn't work. And then we're taking that information and kind of putting it into guidance that partners can use with customers. This is an actual project that we're actively working on, and we're using Copilot to streamline things and make it easier for all of us. And so it's the best of both worlds. I love it.
You're
It
using
saves me a ton of
Copilot to write about
time.
Copilot.
It's Copilot Inception. I know. It's cool, isn't it? Like it's so
Yes,
much fun to be able to use it in different ways. And so that's just one of the many ways that I like to use it on a daily basis.
that's awesome. Okay, so we've got a couple different things on ways that we can get started. And I know that, we put together slides because there were some, links, things like that. But talk us through, how do we get started if they haven't already?
Yeah, so I would say, in the order here, I wish I would order it a little bit differently, but number three here, aka.ms/CSP Copilot. That is our one-stop shop where you can find a lot of that information. The four-step process that I spoke about, the deep dive into it. We actually did a webcast like maybe a month and a half ago or so, where my VP, Giovanni Mezgak, kind of walked through those steps in detail. And so there's an on-demand version of that, so you can double click into it. I'll also say that Demoing Copilot through these click-through demos is foolproof. It's really easy. You can just take a customer through to show them how it works, how it looks like in real life. And if you kind of tie that in with the actual live demos, it's an awesome experience. And then the last thing I'll kind of talk about is our adoption site. That adoption site is super rich with materials. I mentioned it before, so those scenario libraries can be found there. So regardless of if you're an end user or you're a business leader, or if you're in charge of change management at your organization, that adoption site will really, really get you what you need in order to feel good about Copilot deployment and adoption. And wouldn't, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to not talk about Lighthouse. How do you identify the right customers for Copilot? Lighthouse is that tool that can help our resellers really get that granular detail of those tenants who are ready for Copilot. So those are the 4 resources I would say that you should check out. Definitely that CSP Copilot portal is a one-stop shop where you can find.
Awesome. Man, Tamim, this time flies by with you.
Always
Thank you
does.
so much. You know you got to come back, right?
We'll make it happen.
Good, good. All right. Thank you for your time. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Kristen. Bye, guys.
All right, everybody. Another Copilot episode down. Thank you so much for tuning in to Technically Unraveled. We'll see you next time.